Hey everybody, welcome back. Kimberly Bell here. How are you? Today we're talking about breaking the codependent mindset. This is huge for happiness, right? Codependency is when we give our power away and our happiness away to a person, a situation, a substance. If we are if we're living from a place of non-codependency, then that means that my power is within myself, right? And I have choices. And I know that if I'm unhappy, then I can say something. There are things that I can do. I'm not a victim of my circumstances. So I don't give my power away to people, situations, and life in general, okay? Things happen in life, but it's all about the perspective around that. And it's all about realizing that I have choices. I have a choice in every moment of every day, right? So we could talk so much about this, but I just want to talk about the first steps to what I feel are really to break this mindset. One came to me years ago when I was about 7 years old. Quick story here. Living in Berkeley, California during the time of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And let's just say that I was a child. I spent a lot of time alone, and I roamed the streets by myself in Berkeley, and I was friends with everybody. And bottom line is, I got involved with a group of kids who liked to steal from this penny candy store. And I didn't like it, right? Because I'm empathic, and even at that time, I could tell that the owners of the store were just so kind. And I really didn't want to do it. Bottom line is, it got a little beat up from the whole thing because I didn't want to do it. But then at the same time, I was like, gosh, I really don't want to be excluded from this group of kids. So I decided I was going to have a conversation with God. And this is exactly the way I used to think. So, because I really thought I guess I kind of thought of myself as like a superhero at age 7. So anyway, bottom line is, I had a conversation with God, believe it or not. And I'm not so sure who I thought I was conversing with, if it was God or whoever, but bottom line is this. I wanted to know, are you guys watching me all the time? Are you watching me some of the time? Does it matter if I steal? Like, is everyone keeping track of what I'm doing? It's kind of funny looking back at this, right? The voice I heard, the words I heard were, you are 100% responsible for yourself, no matter how old you are, what your age is. So that pretty much summed it up for me. It made me feel like, oh, okay, I am being watched, things are being kept track of, and I'm gonna be a good kid, basically. And so I lived that way. I was like the best kid I could be. So long story short is, those are words that came to me very powerfully at 7. Now, I forgot about that moment until I hit my 40s, and I went through a really dark time in my life. And during an episode that I was having, I was literally breaking down. That voice came back to me again because I was searching for answers and I didn't have them. And I needed answers from doctors for a child of mine, and they weren't coming. And it was 50 doctors later and still no answers. And I felt like it was me and my child in a lot of respects against the world because I couldn't figure this out. So I heard those words again. And at that time, it was quite comforting because I also heard, in addition to that, is you have all the answers inside of you. You have everything that you need to live in this lifetime. So in that, it gave me peace. And I realized that I'm here to be responsible for myself in all ways. And I am also here to be able to figure everything out that I need to figure out in this lifetime. So that really made me feel awesome and liberated. At the same time, I was like, scratching my head. But aside from that, I want you to know that this feeling and knowing of being 100% responsible for ourselves is a really different way of living than what we've been living by for a really long time. For eons of time, we've been feeling and kind of learning that we are a victim of circumstances. We are a victim of this lack world that we live in. But I don't believe that's true. What I believe is that we're here to live non-codependently, where we have the ability to change our lives, to change our circumstances. And so let's talk practically. Got off on a tangent, sorry about that. Let's talk practically about what that means. If I'm going to be 100% responsible for myself, that means it matters what I say, what I think, how I feel, and how I act. It matters, okay? It matters when I'm, just by myself talking every single day. It's the difference between, giving myself a hard time and saying you're so stupid to, you know what, Kim, you're doing the best you're able to do in that moment, okay? That's one way that I can empower myself to feel like I'm on my own team, right? So I'm being responsible for helping myself feel better, okay? Feeling good about myself. So if I'm going to be self-responsible, then I know that I can figure things out. I know that when life gets a little shifty on me or difficult, which happens, that I know that there are teachers that I can seek out, right, to help me deal, right, and give me new ideas and new tools. And I want to say, I am just one teacher of a gazillion teachers out there right now. A lot of people are kind of stepping up to show the way for people to live in an unconditional loving way, and this non-codependent living, where we are good enough just as we are. So I have options, okay? And that's with me and myself. And this is a big conversation, but I'm just trying to stick with some basics here. All right, let's talk about relationship. So if I'm in a relationship, instead of giving my power away to the other person, I know that it's my job to be happy. I know that my partner's job, it's their job to get themselves together. I support them because, I love them, right? But there's a difference between being codependent and supportive, right? There's a difference between doing everything for someone and supporting them while they're recovering from illness or, needing some inspiration, right? So it's support rather than doing for. And allowing my partner to be themselves, right? Allowing my partner to think the way that they do, to feel the way they do about things. We can't always see eye to eye. And I think that that's kind of awesome in a way. It can feel really frustrating, but at the same time, I want to be able to feel like I can express myself the way I feel, my likes, my dislikes in a relationship without feeling like I'm hurting somebody's feelings, I'm being judged, right? I think that we all deserve to feel the freedom of that. So those are some examples for a relationship. And then I want to say parenting. This is a big one, okay? Many people feel as though they didn't have or they don't have great parents. Many people feel they do. I guess I'm talking to all parents actually. Here's the scoop. I've heard parents say before, well, my parents really sucked, right? So that's why I'm not a great parent, because I didn't have a good teacher. So that's a codependent mindset when it comes to parenting. So the non-codependent mindset when it comes to parenting is, I realize that my parents may have participated in my pain, but you know what? I'm my own person and I can totally do this differently. I can be the best parent that I'm able to be. And if I don't know how to do that, then it's my job to find ways, new ideas, ways of parenting that help empower me, build a loving relationship between me and my child. So it's a really different way of looking at it. Okay, so we're talking about breaking that codependent mindset. And the second mindset that I would like to offer you is, and we just spoke about being 100% responsible. So now I realize the second one is, it's my job to create the life that I want to live. And that's very similar to being 100% responsible. It's actually, it's related, right? Because it's important that I realize that I can do this the way that I want to do it. I can choose the type of partner I want to be with, right? I can choose the kind of relationship that I want to have, right? Because I am designing the life that I am choosing to create. I can have the type of job that I desire. I can be the kind of parent that I want to be. And I realize that if something in my life isn't working for me, that it's my responsibility to make the change, right? To do something differently than I have. So if I realize that it's my job to create my life, then there's no way I can be a victim of circumstances and a victim of life, because I realize that that's on me. So that's the second one. The third one is, it's not a perspective as much, but it's using our voice, okay, and expressing ourselves. Because codependency has a lot with, is related to, and you guys can relate to this, you know, the idea of hoping somebody's going to figure it out, or hoping someone's going to read my mind magically. And oh my God, I did this for so many years. And you know, it stinks because they never really do, right? Nobody ever really reads our mind. You know, some people do, but it's not consistent. Nobody ever really can get inside of my head, right? It's not their job to get inside of my head. So the third one is about expressing ourselves. How do we do that? Well, we do it with our words, right? We do it with our voice, okay? And this is our throat, right? Our throat chakra is, I feel like, in some ways so underused because we've been raised to not say things. We've been raised that if we speak, we're going to make somebody else uncomfortable. But what ends up happening is things end up being really awkward and uncomfortable anyway, because we're not able to say what we really want to say. You know, resentments build, we get angry, yada, yada, yada. I mean, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. So, and I've said this so many times, right? You've heard me say this before. You can say anything in a loving and kind way. So if I'm going to be 100% responsible for myself, and it's my job to create my life, then it's my job to express myself, be clear, right? And I say to clients often, right? Even when you think you're being clear, it's okay to be clear again about the same thing, because this is a new muscle, right? We hope people are getting it, but sometimes they don't get it. So being clear with our communication, saying what it is that I need, or help me understand what your problem is, right? How can we work on this together? You know, we're in this together. We can open it up. When it comes to expression, I find for myself, and I find with others, that we all know what all this stuff feels like. We know what it feels like to be on both sides of the coin, right? So it's okay to say, hey, I'm frustrated. I'm feeling this way. Can you help me, sit down with me and help me understand why I'm so angry? I feel like it's at you. I know it's not at you, right? I know that you're just a mirror for, you know, I'm just getting triggered by you, but I'm still angry. So can you help me talk this through, right? So that's a way that we can talk to somebody and they don't feel as threatened because we've asked them to help us, right? So expression, what does it take? It takes honesty. It takes vulnerability. It takes, you know, taking a chance to start being clear about how you're feeling, how you're looking at things, maybe how you wish they could be different. Instead of expecting someone to figure it out after 20 years, help them understand how you're feeling, what you're going through, right? There's so much misunderstanding and so much miscommunication that happens because we're afraid and we are uncomfortable because this is all so new. But this is part of being, non-codependent. This is part of learning how to be unconditionally loving to ourselves, to our partners, with our children, right? It's really important that we communicate with our children, because I feel like they're confused because they have grown up during a time that's weird, right? We don't talk a lot at home, yet we get a lot of attention with social media. And I feel like it's allowed for a huge disconnect, because children they feel all the time. But if at home we can't express it and no one's really talking about the truth, or the feelings, then it doesn't really give us permission, and it builds resentment, it builds anger and confusion and disconnection. So let's come together. We're moving into year 2020, and let's come together. Let's let go of this codependent way of being, and let's realize that we are very powerful and we have options, and it's our job to create what it is that we want and to experience in our lives, and we'll all be a heck of a lot happier. I guarantee it. So I really hope that this was helpful for you, and I can't wait to talk to you next time. Have a great week. Thank you.